Sorry about that. Technical difficulty. Morning about this morning. You can hear us. Consultants here in French, sharing a microphone. Welcome to AI Party. With our first combined interest in streaming. We're going to be talking about challenges and hopes AI in driving. I'm very fortunate to have two great people today. I've got Ian Jeff from Lenovo, who's the country manager. We also have Jim Carroll here, who is the CEO from Digica. Ian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. Hi, everybody. I'm Ian Jeff. I'm country manager for Lenovo infrastructure solutions, sort of things like that. Data center, so all I've been in the last 5 years, between troubles and previous roles in IT, IBM, and great to be here. Really intrigued about what we see from an edge of AI, making learn from different industries on the bench top. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Jim, I'm Jim Carroll, Digica background as an embedded software for a long time. I'm fortunate to go to later technology, such as vision, went through mobile, through mobile, TV, automotive, and then going through IoT, AI, AI basis. I'm not actually on a techie nature. I'm not cutting code anywhere. Plenty of people in our organisation. So I'm normally working at the engineering process, creating designs, making plans, engineering stuff. Brilliant, thanks, Jerry. So let's get started. What are your observations of the AI growing as being adopted still?
I think it went Paul went large. I mean, ChatGPT, and that went really quick. I think if you look at kind of the enterprise based AI, the IT and OT category, that's been studied. There are challenges that I'm going to talk about why that's been and how it's taken development cycle. This group is actually perfect for how people sort of fix some of those problems. A lot of skills that I see with customers every week, which is native AI, showing what is AI to start, how do I use it, how do I solve it, what software I want to solve, and then how do I business case and build proof of concept, something like that. So I think from a haven't seen a big push yesterday. I mean, I said what we do, and we saw the hard stuff, and we still doing some of those. Certain industries, financial services, they went back in and other industries are catching up. So I see a mixture, but it's definitely in the last 6 to 12 months, it's started to go for the level. So the promise of IoT 10 years ago was to have the data tell me how much data was going to be collected through airplane engines across the Atlantic. Data, that's the new model, that's exactly what the new model building new models, Digica. But somehow those fundamentals haven't quite matched up, it's out perfect. Adoption of IoT, industrial manufacturing organisations, they don't really want to have their sensors and decades of years. So dealing with that legacy estate which has been less data around, which is when it's harder and harder to find train models. There's a lot of organisations creating new standards and tools and applications. There's still a lot of fragmentation. I do see the same passing phase though, because that's true. That was true of mobile 20 years ago. Moved through automotive 10 years ago. It's starting to emerge. Data will be available on hot wires. Do you think it's a case that maybe if you think about it, you mentioned Wolfpack and how that grew and exploded, you had BlackBerry,
with the function was it was an MP3 player that did everything. It has an ecosystem. And it seems to be, as you were talking about, things being fragmented, that there is a solid ecosystem to help people adopt easily to then scale.
That's absolutely 100% the case. If we think back to what I was saying with IoT, the key thing about IoT, in my view, well, there are two key things about IoT. There's the internet and there's the things. That's cloud and that's some kind of embedded development. Every organisation has their own SDK or tool, and that goes from silicon vendors, so Intel, NVIDIA, ARM, all those kind of guys. And then there's people who are working for the networks, Vodafone, Amazon. Everybody's got their own variation on that. So although there are some standards, things like MQTT protocols, in actual fact, there is still small variation, no standards. I imagine what is likely to happen is that an organisation such as Carroll, which I collaborate with, specify APIs and standards for software, things like GPUs. I imagine those kind of organisations will set standards which will be adopted, built in with a much improved model of our building here.
Do you think, just touching on that and mentioning GPUs, that there's also a bit of education with human speed, the speed that GPT has got people sort of thinking about AI and using it in that sense. But in some of the use cases that you guys use, digital twins as an example, that there is that difference in AI of training, which, let's be honest, GPUs, the providers for that, both market and NVIDIA, but actually the inferencing in the use cases from manufacturing and at the edge side of things, actually that power consumption and stuff is actually, there's other options out there from providers as well.
Absolutely. So, to get a little bit technical at the moment, but a lot of developers believe that NVIDIA and their software platform CUDA is the be all and end all. Now that may well be true for training, but when you're deploying at the edge, organisations like Intel, NVIDIA, Imagination Technologies, all the usual big silicon vendors subscribe to a standard called OpenCL, which does broadly speaking similar things to CUDA. What this means is that there are frameworks for using GPUs for doing inference at the edge, plenty of them. They do a good job. But it's still not broadly adopted. The use of GPUs in this way, that does mean that we can do a lot more. So increasingly we're seeing OpenCV computer vision applications at the edge on the cameras for doing all sorts of useful things that need to be real time, so in cars or in industrial manufacturing kind of thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think for a lot of people who jump to a GPU type discussion, the education is important. And it's not about education saying we're smarter than you or as we matter. There's lots of very intelligent people out there that can do all that. I think it's about giving people the opportunity to try things, to do proof of concepts, to actually start building the stuff, to go back to your point around having something that's a bit like the Apple solution where you just buy the ecosystem. And I'll talk about ecosystem later on. It's not a word I love. Our ecosystems are tried and it's an old terminology. But with AI, I think it's really good. I think bringing all those people together and building that repeatable solution that you can take out is going to become more and more important with the real take-up of AI and IoT. I mean, IoT for me was a bit more about learning about sensors and actually business outcomes, unfortunately. Unfortunately. I learned what you could do with a sensor was amazing compared with what I thought before, but it didn't turn into big business opportunities so much as I see the AI piece, AI linked to sort of those ideas doing.
And I think the sensor thing was that start of the journey, and I think there was sort of that push of like the sensors and IoT is going to be the solution, where actually that was the data collection, as you touched on, Jim. And then now that data is being collected from the sensors, it's the evolution from that to actually start to create business outcomes. So who are the key players to really drive the adoption? Because think about how still some big businesses move, and that includes GSIs as an example. Who do we think are the real players that are really enabling things moving forward at the moment?
So in terms of enabling, again, I go back to my point about there being two parts to IoT. So big cloud organizations, Amazon, Google, Azure, they've all got IoT solutions of one form or another, which you can link into AI models really quite easily these days. At the other side, there are silicon vendors. Some silicon vendors, like Intel, of course, provide both ends of that. So they provide great solutions to enable all sorts of incredible applications. But at the end of the day, it really needs industry to come together and decide what they want and the use cases. It's nothing without the use cases. And the big we've worked with telecommunications providers, industrial companies, automotive, across the board. But they all want different things and they all move at different paces. So widespread adoption and better understanding, as Ian was saying, what AI really is and can do for you.
Ian?
Most of the same answer. You do need the outcomes. Yeah? You need somebody to start saying this is what I want to fix and this is what I want to do. But how do actually the people that are going to come along that journey? You've got to have somebody that can write code or software to do that. So there's a whole bunch of ISVs in my world and my terminology that is hugely important, because otherwise you can have a great idea and you can wish you could do it, but you still got to make it work. You've got to have somebody who can do that. I think, we touched on it earlier on with some of the conversations here. Having people that can help the customer build the business case to do it as well is hugely important, because nobody's going to. Have we got a bit of money for a proof of concept? We find that quite regularly when we talk to enterprise clients. They all want to do AI with the inverted commas, but they don't know what it is yet, and they don't know how to do it. And if they're going to unlock that cash, like anybody, none of us got loads of money to go spend. You've got to have a prioritisation. You've got to build that business case. So I think helping customers do that in a clear way that then unlocks we know we've got that problem, and now we're going to fix the problem, and this is how we'll fix it, is the important stuff. You can talk about connectivity. You mentioned telco. You've got to be able to connect all this stuff. That's important, where the edge sits and kind of where the sensors are and how you pull that data in. You're going to talk about people are going to put the data in a perfect manner, because no, you can't do AI and IoT without the data being in a good format in the right place. All those are important.
Yeah.
But to get that business case ready so that people will do a project, I don't think has happened just yet.
I mean, that really resonates with me. I think that, one of the things that I've always been quite keen to push on when I've been working with partners and customers is what's the problem statement, and then working back on that, and then also understanding the partners and relationships, like you were mentioning, and work with people like Digica, of understanding what bigger pieces of the jigsaw puzzle are available, so it's not so much trying to connect too many smaller pieces together. And so by then being able to deliver that POC at a stage much quicker, so they can start to see the return. And there's been a number of projects I've been working on over the past year where we've actually set it at 3 phases. So prove the technology can work and see what data is being collected, and quite quickly training models and showing the output from that, and then start to build out how it would scale in the next 2 phases. And then getting the commitment of, if you can hit this criteria for phase 1, we'll move to phase 2, which will have this. Yes, it is slower, which is not what businesses are wanting, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But it's the more pragmatic approach that you'll get a more slowed down.
And I think it gets projects started.
Yeah.
If you try and get the perfect answer, you will be here for a long time. Yeah. Because that data, let's face it, most companies that I talk to got data literally everywhere. I mean, I'm sure they would portray it that way, but the data's everywhere, and it's all in different formats. So if you wait for all that to be in the right place for each IoT project, each AI project to be perfect, you will never do it. Yeah. Or you'll do it way, way, way down the line. So a lot of people are doing as you described, agree you're going to do it, that it's not perfect, but start, and then phase 2, phase 3 after that.
Yeah.
So that pattern's really common in projects we're doing to start with. We'll do some kind of analysis of what's there to start with, and that's generally something we do at our cost. But beyond that, what we call proof of concept, and the industry in general calls proof of concept, before you move to an MVP and then stage development. That's really important in AI in general, not just on IoT, because the building of models is a much less predictable activity than traditional software development. You don't really know precisely what kind of accuracy you're going to get out of a model when it's completed. So the first phase, we tend to ignore completely the software problems because we know they can be solved there. Normal software problems can be solved with software engineering. And just focus on a model in isolation in a lab environment. And when we get to the end of a proof of concept and we've got some agreed accuracy, we know we're good to move into what we'll call a deployment or implementation phase to build the applications around that and work on enhancing the accuracy of the model.
Yeah. Well, moving sort of slightly on one of the things that we talked about before about IoT. How do we learn from the pitfalls, right? Because there was a lot of big push and buzz about IoT, and everybody was calling the services that they had IoT, which confused things. Like, for example, telecom operators were talking about SIM cards that went into a device as IoT. How do we learn from that messaging and confusion that was put out to the market that stalled? I mean, from my experience in the early days of IoT, it was a lot of, especially when Raspberry Pi came around, a little unit collecting data, and it was like, yeah, the business is doing IoT to share to their board members. So how do we learn from that to really set a pragmatic approach?
Lots of little projects. I think that was what was going on. For me, it's connecting all the parts of the business. So everybody says OT, IT. It's real. Yeah, it's connecting the finance team to the manufacturing line team to the IT team that all understand what that business case is actually going to be to then make sure you do it. If you just have the IT department putting some sensors together, buying a Raspberry Pi and saying IoT, that's fine for about 6 months or a year, then it stops. So it's connecting all those dots, I think, is for me probably the biggest pitfall to avoid if you don't do it.
Yes, I think I agree with you, Ian, but I'll phrase it slightly differently. Right now, I have potential customers talking to me saying, I need AI, without really knowing what it is. Yeah. Without really understanding the problem, they've just leapt to AI as a solution. And some people just want an AI badge to say they've got it. The same kind of thing happened 10 years ago with IoT. I need IoT. Why? Well, I just do. And so, take Ian's point, it's really important to go back to the beginning. You said this as well, Paul. What is the real problem we're trying to solve? But it's no good just solving a technology problem in itself. You need to link that back to a business case. Where AI and IoT really help is that they can bring about big efficiency savings in optimization, performance, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the projects that I've been working on for a few months now, and which has been a super interesting one. It's took a bit of longer, but it's actually been paperwork rather than the actual project itself. Was actually sponsored by health and safety in a business, and what got them super interested was actually computer vision, because it was something they could actually see. Rather than just data coming through in a dashboard, they could actually see what was going on, see things that were being identified. And the project was the meeting to review the project to move to the next phase was the first time anybody in the business has seen the health and safety team super animated and actually started to point out from the data that they were seeing, and even just how understanding simply how things were trained to be seen. They start to point out other things that they were seeing that, well, could you evolve the model to do that as well? And then having the conversation, well, actually that would be a different project. But yes, you could use the same infrastructure and just expand it out. And that through that education piece that we were talking about earlier, it got them really animated and touched on what you were saying, Ian, as well, about bringing the business into it and being able to actually be part of it and see the value of it. Then
I think it has to start with the business. I mean, IT will say they get a project. Well, actually, sometimes IT teams don't even know there's a project that somebody wants, because they'll say, to your point, they'll say they want to do AI. Or I don't even know what that means when somebody says that to me, if I'm being honest. Do AI, great. So they may be saying that, but the key is the business. To your point on health and safety, they will get animated if it affects their job. Anybody will get animated if they think if something's going to make them more efficient or make them better at what they do or give them business advantage. Make all those things, that it's internal or external efficiency or business outcome. So actually bringing the business in will get that. And I think the kind of forward-looking companies have got IT really on a board level as opposed to working somewhere in the organisation, because then they can hear those business challenges, and that's some of the structural things you need to, I think, make advantage, give customers advantages.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Really, you've got to go back to the requirements. What is it we want to achieve?
And really, at a business level, that's almost always about saving time or money. There's a kind of corollary to that is improving quality. If you're manufacturing stuff on a production line, traditionally that would be somebody inspecting that, and they wouldn't find out there's a problem until 10 minutes later. With AI, and particularly computer vision, we use this for, you can find out there's a problem within seconds of it occurring, or ideally seconds before it occurs.
Yeah, we see it in two areas: it's customer experience or it's efficiency. It's one of the, it's one of those two areas that you'll see most projects dropping into.
Well, it's also that thing of like by having that efficiencies, you're then creating better quality products and making more money, and because you're being impacted less by having better quality, right?
Exactly.
So, who do you think are the players that businesses are turning to depend on to get them started and really move forward? And I think it's, and the reason why I asked that question is, quite often you find it, the finger's being pointed in different directions of people starting with, oh, it'll be a global system integrator that we work with, and then it's, well, who are you working with? And then, or, but then quite often being found, a lot of global system integrators with the newer bleeding edge technology, their resources don't have the experience, and they wait till it's a bit more further down the line of adoption. So then coming along. So who are the right relationships for businesses to be turning to? This is your opportunity to pitch yourself here, Mike.
I was going to point to Ian first.
Or you can say Intel. Who are they turning? I think they're turning to lots and lots of different people. I think historically I would know where if I was going to run a marketing campaign, I'd know what to do. If I wanted to do an AI marketing campaign, and interestingly, we're doing lots of different things than we were before, and I come out from that piece, and I think it answers the question a little bit. I don't think customers have I don't think there is a set answer anymore. I think, of course, the GSIs have got outstanding skills. They've got programmers coming out. They can do all that. Of course they can. But to your point, they're not always the ones that know the bleeding edge stuff or want to lead with that because they've got things they repeat and they globally. So I think it is, and I mentioned earlier on the whole ecosystem piece, but the hub type thinking here, that's, I think, where people are going to start going to, because it gives them somewhere to go to have a broader discussion, as opposed to, in my case, I want some great hardware, or and other people want connectivity, or they want the development opportunities. That it's where that comes together, I think, is where people will start to go to. And GSIs absolutely could be that too. I mean, I'm sure they would sit here and say, we be first. We're doing lots of consultation with customers and development workshops around what those business problems can be. So we want to be part of that solution. We believe we are a good part of the solution. We can't do a lot of that, and we work with companies like Digica, we put on companies like yourselves.
So that's exactly what I was going to say. Is that it depends? It depends a lot on who you are as a customer. If where the problem originates, I think, I need some AI for this, and they'll go and talk to their IT team, and their IT team will think, I don't know how to do that. But what I do know is, I know Ian at Lenovo, so they'll go to the hardware guys. Other companies, so we work a lot with technology companies who are already pretty good idea of what it is they're after. And so we can talk to the people building that technology directly, whether that's medical technology, defense technology, or telco, or even working with silicon vendors directly in some cases. The big GSIs can be a big part of that. Of course, they've got lots of people, lots of smart people, and all sorts of skills. On the other hand, where an organisation like Digica is different, we're smaller, of course, is that we're specialists. So the difference with Digica is not that we're a software company that does AI, because anybody can say that, but most of our team is data scientists. So we'll start with a data set, an academic paper even, really at the research end, and we'll build models from scratch, from the ground up. But then it's all got a solid backbone of software engineering, so you can build a real deployable application, whether that's in the cloud or in an IoT embedded environment. So the point is, organisations like ourselves, and we're the only one, have a big part to play in this, because they can do bespoke things much more easily.
I think there's also, our sponsors, the National Edge AI Hub, and the opportunity of collaborating with them as well,
Absolutely.
with the funds that they have for academic research to be part of those as well, accelerate it out as well. So check out our sponsors by all means, and get that help from Charles and the team. Is there with the size of the scale and stuff and adoption, is it what are the barriers that are sometimes blocking businesses from really pushing forward? Like you said, I think both of you mentioned, a lot of businesses go, I want to do AI, and AI is such a big thing. It's like the term IoT, right? That means so much. I mean, a mobile phone could be counted as an IoT device. I mean, it is, right, with smart devices. But with AI, yet again, it's the same. It could be as simple as using ChatGPT to all the other levels. So, are you seeing any stalls of people talking about that, of like, I want to adopt AI, and then when you start to dig deeper, they start to pull back?
Not so much pulling back, but I had an interesting conversation with a potential customer yesterday. And with some people, there is a certain amount of education. Ultimately, if you wind AI back to what it really is, it's the classic computer science problem. It's a black box. Input, something happens, output. And in this case, all AI, in one way or another, is making a prediction. Whether it's making a prediction of the next word in an LLM output, whether it's predicting if that pixel there is part of a cup, or if it's trying to predict a potential failure in a data stream from a piece of equipment. So there's always a bit of education. Well, not always. There's often a bit of education. And yesterday, I had a conversation with a security camera vendor that was wanting to know how the AI learns the rules that we apply. And of course, that's really not the way to look at it. If you know the rules, you don't actually need AI. You can just, that's some kind of deterministic software algorithm. That's really quite relatively straightforward. So education, for really broad adoption, education is important.
So how do we drive that education? How do we help with that? Because I think sometimes with marketing, it can be so high and elusive, it creates more confusion. How do we help it to become more clearer?
Oh, that's a tough one.
That's why I give it to you.
Yeah. Can I swap that one? There's a lot. I'm not here to preach about how people go get educated. I mean, I'm in a university, for goodness sake. It's been a long time. No, I think what the things that we're trying. Yeah. So instead of going to an event with a great big Lenovo sign at the top and we put lots of really great products on the shelves to go and talk to, we're actually going to events now that are industry focused.
Yeah.
With examples of the outcomes.
Yeah.
So we'll go, and there'll be a Lenovo sign somewhere at the top, but there'll be the signs of all the ISVs that we work with, or the companies that we're working with around the pods. So they'll be showing their solutions. So yeah, if you did a retail event, you could show theft protection, you could show security camera work, you could show all those different types of things, and that helps the education.
Yeah.
Because that's where the people are. I still believe people are trying to figure out what to do with AI. Yeah. Especially outside of LLMs, yeah, they're trying to figure that piece out. So helping customers see the outcomes, it may not be that exact solution they go with, but it gets them thinking about what they could do. So that's part of the thing that we're doing. Like I said, we're also running quite a few independent workshops around bringing in people to come and talk generally about what you can do. And I see that's something with the sponsors here today that we can do a lot with. How do we bring expertise to get just people thinking about those projects? Next, you need business buy-in. Next, you need to find great software development people. Next, you need to find, if it's a big company, GSI, you need somebody to roll it out. You need all those things. Yeah. It's that idea. It's that, how do we do something, and what is it we're going to do, and why are we going to do it?
Yeah, I think you raise a really valid point there about demonstrations and letting people be able to see, touch and feel, rather than, over the years there's been so many events where people have turned up with a box and a screen and playing a video about something that can work, and then when it has enticed people to go and test and try it out, it's been quite an uphill climb because it's a lot of work that's required, whereas when they get the opportunity to see, touch and feel it, and then it invigorates them to start thinking about their business problems and connect with it. Correct. It really opens up those conversations with it. Jim, what's your experience?
Well, I think this is where the universities and organisations such as this really have a big role to play in educating people about what's generally possible. Show and tell is great, and it's always good to see what people are doing and trade shows and the like and on TV. But of course, you kind of miss the point a little bit. As you said, it's all about marketing often. I think it's important to remember this isn't the first time that AI has come around. You know, we've been through one, or is it two, AI winters back in the past. This time, I think we've broken through. It's actually doing something useful now, and people are starting to see that. If we think back to when I was a kid, back in the 80s, AI was it was something that happened in university labs and Star Trek. But now it's real. Yeah, now it's real. It's here, and the more people can see the kind of things that it can do, and can start to differentiate between what is and isn't AI themselves, then we're there. But I think we're going to get there this time. I don't believe there will be another AI winter.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think again, as we were talking about education, there's sometimes I've been in environments, and Oliver, who's helped produce the show today, educate me on what's AI and what's business rules, right? And sometimes the business rules piece, which has been around for a long time and doable, people make the assumption of like that's the outcome piece. It's the data that goes in there to enable that decision to come through as well. And sometimes projects aren't as complex or as costly because it's that part with it. I think we'll open up the floor to any questions, if anybody has any. So
well, I'd just like to follow that point you made about university's role. Obviously, we are in the university right now, and we are representing the university, and we are open to this type of dissemination activities, evangelizing about technology, the risks, and so on. But at the same time, we often hear from industry that we don't know where to go. We don't know you exist. We don't know what kind of work you do. So, what is it that we're doing wrong? Could be doing differently, so that all the work that we can potentially develop to support this ecosystem is actually effective.
You go first.
I'll go first. To some extent, this is a problem that's been around. So it was around when I was at university, so I'm assuming it's been around forever. I studied VLSI Systems Engineering at university, and the great stuff I was studying then, I assumed this was the next big thing. Of course, a lot of it wasn't. The great research that goes on in universities, there's lots of fantastic ideas. Not all of them become real solid consumer products at the end of the day, because industry goes off in a different tangent depending on what its customers say. But I really think industry can benefit from the kind of research that's going on there. We work a lot, as I say, from first principles from academic papers. But sometimes I do feel that we would get there quicker if we took the problem that we'd found our customers have and worked with universities to see what research they've already got. Commercial organisations aren't always the best at doing research. Universities are much better set up for doing research. So I think it's just about collaboration, and I don't think it's one we're going to crack overnight, because as far as I can tell, it's been around for at least 40 years.
Yeah, I think some of it might even be knowing what you do and how you do it. And that might be my innocent statement. But just as an example, my previous CTO, great guy, he university background, his wife's a professor at Cranfield. And he opened up a lot of access to different things we just didn't know existed. Yeah, so some of it is knowing it's there and trying to, whether we got a long attention spell or a short attention spell, trying to find the right people in those commercial organisations to understand what you've got and then how we do something with it. We took half an hour earlier on today, and I can already see some simple conversations. I think we can connect some dots and do some business together. We'll spend money to try and sell things. That's ultimately what we want to do from a commercial side. So helping our customers understand what they want to do, for me, is the important piece. And I didn't know you did what you did, or you do what you do, should I say. So I think a lot, if I was answering the question bluntly, try to find a net way to tell commercial organisations in the area that you think you can influence in a quicker manner. We talked about the 12 universities that are part of the hub. Yeah, we have business with 10 of them, but I didn't know that the hub really existed, and that's shame on us, and my fault and all those things, but equally it's the other way around. So I think finding a way to market to some of those commercial organisations is probably the simple answer, if that's fair to say.
I think it's the awareness of what's going on and who's doing what and what can be done. communicate in the simplest of terms on that as well, and hence the reason why we've got the partnership with the hub, or the hubs, should we call it, with the rebranding and stuff, to really help connect those dots and get people talking, right? It's getting people connected as well as the technology connected as well. Any other questions?
Yeah, a bit more of an observation, but you were talking a lot about business outcomes. I work for Cisco, I'm in a sort of consulting part of that, moving to the AI stuff, and it is the whole wider ecosystem, what role the hyperscalers play, what role the chipset manufacturers play. But in my experience, business outcomes, having a conversation with an end customer, you have to translate what does that mean to a business outcome, business capability, technology capability. There's a bit, the translation. And the stuff that I've been experimenting with is this idea that some of these LLMs can actually translate the line of business, metrics and KPIs into something that's tangible. And then alongside that, the business case and the modelling of it, the digital twinning aspect of it, there's a big opportunity to do process mining and inspection and say, what if scenario? Even if you synthetic data and not actually go and invest in putting more sensitive, but just say, this is your dairy manufacturing business. Where you're looking at the opportunities for AI on that entire end-to-end.
Yeah.
Actually having a conversation saying, what if we could have that temperature logistics monitoring sensor here? All of a sudden, what's it mean to you? And then you get back to what's important to them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the opportunity to actually bridge the gaps between the business and the technology and the wider ecosystem, and the universities that have got the expertise to actually get out and build these things out.
Yeah.
And gleaning those use cases early, so people can say, we need to prove that because there's a productivity gain here, there's an end new market opportunity to grow, the way we look at logistics handling. Sustainability is their overarching concern.
Yeah.
And I think that's the opportunity with some of the AI stuff, is to take the world of data, take the world of different silos and collapse them down and bring them together. And I think that's the ecosystem comment, the hubs, the collaboration between people looking at these things in isolation. You get the opportunity to service them a bit faster, I think.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that, and resonates with the project that I was mentioned earlier, where we had end of phase 1 meeting, and we actually integrated an LLM into that edge system so they could converse with it, and we made the assumption they would look and talk about the past and what had happened, and what they were more interested in was actually, if we run this for 6 months, can we start to get it to predict behaviours and stuff, so we can start to plan and protect employees from the trends of behaviours where, if they have a peak of distribution, behaviours start to slacken because they're trying to work quicker, because there's more work to be done, but that's counterintuitive for the worker safety, because they have an injury, then they're off for a month, and it impacts them all, right? So it was quite interesting to see that come through, from actually being able to show the system and then enable them with a simple way of communicating with it, and rather than just having a dashboard, being able to actually start to really have a conversation with it to understand it there as well. So yeah, really emphasising what you were saying there. Definitely agree. Any other questions or statements? We have one from Omar, where's it gone? The screen's jumping all over the place. Omar Rana at Cardiff University. Excellent discussion. Just wanted to know how integration of AI with systems, e.g. IoT, as you mentioned, can change AI itself. Is it the same AI when deployed differently? Pass that to Jim.
Definitely. Know your limitations.
Is it the same AI? You can use the same principles, but of course, if you think about an edge device, you haven't got the same resources. You've not got a great big NVIDIA GPU. You've not got limitless storage. So when you might use the same principles to develop your model in the first place, but when you actually come to deploy it on the target hardware, you might not have a GPU, but you might have some accelerator on there, like an ARM Neon device, for example, or well, it could be anything. The other thing is that you might need to optimize it so that it fits on the device and there's enough memory so that it can operate. But there are tools for doing that. Mm-hmm. So the short answer is yes, it's the same model, but the longer answer is you're going to need to tweak it a little bit. But there's plenty of tools to help you do that. If you're going to be working with things like computer vision or LLMs, then you have to really kind of cut cut them down a little bit. You can't put an LLM like ChatGPT onto an NVIDIA Jetson or whatever hardware you happen to be using. But you can do things like that. So the answer is the same. Same core technology, same base technology, but you have to make some adaptations.
Yeah, it's the evolution of it, right?
And the only thing I'll add is you can put GPUs on edge servers, just saying.
What's your feeling about open source? Obviously we've got open source models available, but in terms of making APIs and platforms available to people like universities, like people within industry themselves actually collaborating and building faster.
My personal response, I'm a huge favour of open source, and I mean there's companies here in Newcastle like IoTech, which is built on top of EdgeX Foundry, and they're doing phenomenal jobs with edge computing, and being able to commercialise those systems and extend it out with the other open source, like integrating things like OpenVINO for the inferencing, for vision and stuff like that. So personally, I'm in huge favour of it.
So I used to have long hair and a beard. I'm a big fan. And you get a better result ultimately. Difficulties with open source is there's always a commercial tension. What do we want to give away as opposed to what do we want to sell? Certain open source projects can be difficult to get into. There's almost a sense of elitism about some of them, so that can be difficult as well. But in general, I'm a fan. The more we share, the more we learn together. That's more to say than that. It's in general a good thing. Commercial tension is the difficult bit.
Yeah. Similar. I'm not going to change that one.
Did you have long hair and a beard?
No, I'm a sales guy, yeah. Never had long hair.
Never had long hair?
Never had long hair, no.
Shocking. I did. And I'm a
It's a long time ago.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Hi, I just want to ask about security risks and safety risks when integrating IoT with AI. What kind of challenges do you see in the field at the moment?
I'm going to look to Jim.
So that's kind of separate from the AI part. Security and robustness was a big issue when IoT first came along. Lots of organisations have been building things like encryption acceleration into their SoCs for decades now. So some of the parts of the problems are already solved in hardware. The difficulty is that the software frameworks have got to be easily usable and accessible by the application developers on top of that. Sometimes you might have to pay additional license fees. Sometimes there might be a library which is incompatible with the underlying hardware. So to answer your question, the technology, the core bits and pieces of the technology you need to provide that kind of solution are all there, but there's still an integration headache going on. So if you can solve that, you'll solve an important problem, you'll become very rich.
To add to that little just physical hardware from a practical, if you're going to put compute closer to where the data's driven, you don't want it to get stolen. If you do, you want the hard drive to be encrypted quite quickly. You might want it to be dust preventative, so you don't get dust and rubbish getting into the server. You might want to check the temperatures. All those things are important when you come to edge and how you're going to roll those things out. So we're seeing that quite a bit because it could be as simple as noise. You don't have a data center at the edge. If you don't, some people don't. You want to put it on the wall. Or we sell to train companies, and the server can sit on a train. You don't want a big whizzing, noisy fan going around. So how do you get quiet, environmentally friendly devices to put closer to the edge? So that's something we see a lot, and it's quite important for some of the projects to roll out.
Much of what you discussed in the panel was about the adoption stage and how do we get there. If you look at the academic literature or even the industry case studies, they're usually about that stage, or if they're looking post-adoption, they're looking at successful case, but no one talks about the failed cases. So I was wondering, in your experience so far, what were the main issues and challenges related to realizing the benefits that the clients expected to get, and how can you almost prepare them for these challenges?
That's definitely. I'm so glad Jim's here.
Yeah, me too.
So it's a bit like what Paul was saying right at the beginning, and the kind of pattern we follow. Before we ask anybody to give us any money, we want to look at what they've got to see if it's possible. I mean, this isn't going to be a large unfunded thing. We're talking about a couple of days research just to, so we can get a good feeling of, do we think the problem is solvable with AI? But the next stage is proof of concept. We will be very open, very upfront. This phase may not be successful, or it may, it's not going to give you 90% accuracy. And that's why we focus on sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. The reasons that we get those failures is because the data that we're given to start with is insufficient. That might just be there's not enough, it might be the quality's poor, it might be that it's come from disparate sources. It might be that the problem itself is just not one the world has solved yet. It might be unrealistic commercial expectations that, well, ChatGPT's there, it doesn't cost anything. And that's kind of not, and to go back to the previous question, open source has led people to think that software is a free thing as well. So to summarise, for me, it's all about working with the customer collaboratively through that process and being clear about what the risks are. And what we're never going to do is ask a customer to put $1 million down if we haven't got a good idea it's going to work.
That's a good perspective of what I'm seeing. So we're looking at companies in terms of their AI readiness, from strategy, corporate governance, data, maturity, infrastructure, technology, process. And more often than not, the biggest problem is there's no strategy.
Yeah.
There's no governance. The data's a mess. So you've got to be very pragmatic. I think one of them is alluding to the phasing approach.
Yeah.
Setting those clear success criteria. And you can set a long-term horizon through vision of this is what we can do.
Yeah, yeah,
Case. But one of the biggest challenges, and this is true for my company, is silos.
Mm-hmm.
People don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
All over the place. But the overarching governance, policies, and strategy, if you get the strategy right, most low-hanging fruit for a lot of people, they are right, most productivity gains.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to become. But,
Yeah.
but the multi-sided business model, the opportunities that are there, they're huge. But it's just, it takes them to get their own house in order, if you like. So I think there's a big role to play with the advisors, the boutiques like you that really know what you're talking about, the data scientists to come in and actually fix those maturity gaps. And I think the role for a lot of what you're doing is actually understanding where the gaps are and understanding what the low-hanging fruit is, but also setting a vision of what are we solving for in the future.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it goes back to the statements that we made earlier about thought leadership and education, and then them being the foundation to help those stages and the different pockets like you talked about. But yeah, I see the silo problem so much. I think it's more time than ever in my career that there's business challenges with silos. And it's great to get a project going and stuff, but actually being the bold person in the room to go, who else is impacted by this and should they not be sat in the room with us? And yes, it might stall things by a few days or a few weeks, but if you get everybody bought into it and then bring them on the journey with you, it stops that drop when somebody starts to attack, right?
So I heard a controversial statement. We're familiar with the B2C selling where people go on Amazon and look for reviews. There's a theory with B2B selling that we're going to move towards cognitive selling. So rather than going to Gartner or going to this particular person, figure out who's who is who, and going through all this long drawn-out process, that you're actually going to be able to go and ask the right question, and then it lines with data and understanding of who do I need to talk to,
Mm-hmm.
what are the solutions that are available to me. So you can cut through a lot. So it's going to change. One of the things that's never been really truly transformed is sales.
Yeah.
And lifecycle sales function. And I know you and I will feel this quite a lot, but it's a big part of this, and TSRA put this contention down there, that allow these brands renewed motion, understand the business needs.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what you need, getting to the answer of who do I select, how much is it going to cost, a lot of that stuff can be cut through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And make it available as a useful tool and showcase. I mean, I think that's going to change the way these businesses start to think about it. It's not immediately going to happen, but
Mhm.
it's the direction of travel.
I'd be really intrigued to see how that works out.
Yeah.
I think it's a good theory. I think that there is sometimes the quadrants and stuff that
actually cloud judgment on decisions.
What did you pick up or not?
Any other questions before we wrap up the show? Charles?
Sorry, just one. It reminds me that the industry is very much in the same phase that when smart technologies or smartphones or smart products or smart services were introduced. Because what do we mean by the Internet of Things and what do we know about smart? So, I'm playing around in my own head as to how we can actually sort of like take, if you like, the transition from smart technologies to delivering intelligent solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Because that intelligence that we're actually using, it's not smart, it's not clever. What it is, it's intelligent, therefore it's allowing, if you like, the human or the machine or the, if you like, the decision maker to make the right decisions. And I think we need to be able to sort of go through that, because when we look at artificial intelligence, what is it? You can go back to the sort of the sci-fi days, the 60s, 70s, 90s, and what have you. And I think, if you like, we've jumped really from the Internet of Things to artificial intelligence. But there are obviously something like 7 or 8 facets of artificial intelligence. But if you ask somebody now, it's not only about, oh yeah, I've heard of ChatGPT, but I mean, it's not just a question of that. And I think it's really working with the industry that provide, if you like, the smart technologies, and if you like, working in intelligence, that are actually looking at those solutions, and therefore the National AI Hub hopefully will actually sort of like be able to actually bring everybody together and coordinate it, and actually then, if you like, use artificial intelligence within our own hub to then put you in touch with the right people and the right network.
Yeah.
So it's really, if you like, coordinating the network of networks.
Yeah. Well, I think there's an opportunity of having your own LLM, the data and access that you have, to enable people to get access to that information, and people as well, and create a different environment. Sorry, yeah.
So actually, just have a question which is actually really great. So my question is about the privacy, user privacy. With so many types of smart devices, such as our mobile phones or some phones, cars, they have so many sensors and collect so many data. And so this is huge, for AI training program. Personally, those who run this, I know that data is very valuable. But another thing is this will lead to some concerns with the user privacy because they can the user put out some content from of user can be detected by you because data. So my question is if the company has that many data, how does the company make sure that the privacy of the user can be protected?
Jim.
Do you want to admit?
No.
So privacy can be maintained in a number of ways. At the kind of lowest level, the actual core technology in the operating system is still something that you're probably familiar with the way that you have users when you log into your Windows PC, or in the Linux kernel there are users and user groups and things like that. And that creates what we used to call data caging, I'm not sure what people call it these days, to partition data that only that user can access it. If you think about an IoT device that's connected to something, that's probably, that each device is probably a user or part of a user group. So the data is partitioned that way. After it's transferred to a cloud service, for example, something similar will apply. If I think at a high level how we deal with our customers, we don't necessarily need any technology to do this, but the data I've got from Intel, I need to make sure that is kept really separate from the data that I've got from NVIDIA. I'm not saying that I do have that data, but I need to keep that separate. And there's a number of physical ways you can do that, a number of IT security ways to do that. The same thing is applied. It's incumbent on us as a company. If we could if we couldn't keep all our data secure and separated out into partitions, we wouldn't have a business. And so the same principles apply to people building IoT solutions. That's not to say that it doesn't go wrong, and that's why Microsoft is sending a new patch every 20 minutes. But there are techniques and technologies built into the core operating system, and the applications that go on top of it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Jim, Carroll, today. Ian Jeffs from Lenovo. I've been Paul Wheels. A huge thank you to Oliver Hamilton for helping us with the live stream today. Well, truly educated producer. Thank you very much to National AGI Hub with us. We have our next two shows lined up. So our next one is part of our commitment to the National AGI Hub. We have four speakers lined up. The first one will be Thomas Sidlo. Sidlo, thank you very much. From Newcastle University, he'll be coming to speak about anomaly detection at the edge using TinyML and edge computing. That's on the 1st of October. And then on the 5th of November, we will have Marios Polanco in automating production processes and reducing energy waste with AI, using AI in smart factories to automate quality inspection. And then in December, we will be having a bit of a break for that. On that, thank you very much for joining us today. Stalling times to try and get through the